Good afternoon, Santa Clarita and everyone else streaming around the world. You're listening to a special KHTS broadcast with Alex Urbina and Perry Smith right here in your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Today's show, we're going to talk about mental illness. We have a special guest in studio joining us, Michael Doherty from the Behavioral Health Unit at Henry Mayo. We also are going to have a courageous woman calling us to be on the show today. Her name is Missy Bryant, and she's going to share her story. So, Perry, you called this meeting, and I think it's an incredible meeting and possibility to have some awareness on the show about mental illness. Tell me why you wanted to have this show.
I've been learning, thanks Alex, and I've been learning a little bit more about some of the mental health issues with this community. There is a group, a subcommittee, a Blue Ribbon Suicide Task Force that's been working with, in the community, a bunch of community agencies and partnerships, the city, county, our local hospital, to kind of address some of the concerns about suicide. And it's kind of really opened my eyes to just the prevalence of mental health and illness and issues in our community, and you see it in a variety of different ways. You see it in some of the domestic violence incidents. You see it in some of the sexual assaults, and you also see it in some of the murders that we've had. There's at least 3 in the last 2 years that I could think of that are directly linked. They believe it's still in court, tied to mental health issues, and that's something that we don't. It appears that they're random acts of violence sometimes, but there are issues, there are treatments available, and there are root causes, and we want to raise awareness about those causes, the ability to help, and the need for sustained treatment. That's like the most important thing that I've been hearing over and over again. And Missy Bryant came to us. She actually called me yesterday and started telling her story. We wrote a news report about a Castaic standoff, and this woman had stolen a gun, taken a person she didn't know at hostage, drove to a mobile home park, and threatened to kill him and herself. And the man she didn't know, again, ended up getting away. Deputies, there was a 4-hour standoff at the mobile home park, and eventually it resolved peacefully. But Missy Bryant said she was watching the show the next day, and she was watching the Neighborhood Watch, and she was just talking about the message that we were putting out there, which is that there are mental health resources available. There is community. There needs to be more community awareness, and it really hit home with her. And she called me up yesterday to say thank you. I've served my time. I'm going through treatment now. I'm back on my medication, and everything that happened that day was a result of her going off her medication for about 6 months. She doesn't fully remember why she did it. But she knows that was the end result, and she said she wanted to use her experience and that trauma and that traumatic experience to raise awareness about the importance of following up on mental health treatment, recognizing these issues that they exist all over our community, and kind of just raising awareness. That is her goal. If she can do anything, she wants to do that. And when she said that to me, I just was completely touched. It's a moving experience to hear somebody open up and tell you that kind of story, because one of the reasons is the stigmas behind mental illness. I'm sure everyone knows someone in their family or a friend who's been affected by it but doesn't want to talk about it, is ashamed of it, is embarrassed by it, or and that's something that we can address, and that's something that we can help in this community. And if we can do that a little bit with this show and just get the resources out there a little bit, then I think it's a great thing.
Absolutely. I'm actually inspired by her story and her wanting to share her story, even just the awakening that she had through the process. Like you said, she served her time, and you also you think when people go to jail, you're hoping that they go to jail for a reason, and the reason is that they're having some kind of an awakening experience, or they're learning, or they're rationalizing what they did, what they didn't do. And I'm sure she sat there and probably looked at her not taking her medication for 6 months was probably one of the underlying issues that really kind of had her be in that state of being ready to explode, and then that one day just flipped the switch for her.
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show, because you've already touched on this at the very beginning, and that is the stigma attached to it. Isn't it sad that we can tell somebody that, without even thinking about it twice, oh, I have a cold, oh, I have the flu, I'm going to have a surgical procedure here, I'm going to have a hip replaced or what have you, but nobody wants to say, I suffer from depression, right, or I suffer from schizophrenia. And part of the reason for that is because it's so misunderstood. mean, people will say, let's say they work with a lady at work who can turn around in a second and be unhappy. So they'll say, oh, so-and-so is schizo. And they think that means two personalities. Or they'll say, so-and-so is bipolar, and they just throw that out because it's one of those phrases that we just throw out about people. But that's absolutely incorrect. And so it's great to be able to be here, and it's great to have this kind of program. And Missy's doing a wonderful thing by coming out here and saying, hey, look, this is what happened to me, and this is how we could prevent this from happening to other people.
Absolutely. And I think that, like I said, for me, it's kind of when I heard the story and I heard that she reached out to share and wants to, use her voice and tell her story to inspire people, I was inspired by that message. And so that's why I'm excited to be here and to hear a little bit more of her story. I have a lot of questions because, I want to help not only myself, but I want to help other people, open up some possibilities of how to deal with some of our friends, some of our family members, maybe even ourselves. Maybe there's an underlying condition or a certain level of mental health issues that we might have that we don't even know.
No,
Could that be
true.
possible? Aren't there different levels of mental health issues?
Oh, sure, absolutely. For instance, depression is very, very misunderstood because everybody gets down. We could have a down week. But if it lasts for probably 2 weeks or longer, then it's probably clinical depression. But up to that point, we're not clinically depressed. We're just down. We're having a bad day. We're having a bad week. That can happen.
So what happened? Are there different phases? And maybe we'll talk about this when we come back from the break. But I want to break down the possibility that there could be different phases that you go through to get you to the point where you're schizophrenia or get to the point where you just losing control. Stay tuned for more. You're listening to a special broadcast here on KHTS on your hometown station AM 1220 KHTS. And welcome back to a special KHTS broadcast. I'm Alex Urbina, hanging out with my co-host Perry Smith in studio right here on your hometown station AM 1220 KHTS. Today we're talking about mental illness, and we have a couple special guests in studio. Joining us is Michael Doherty. He's from Henry Mayo at the Behavioral Health Unit. We're also going to have Missy Bryant calling in to tell her story. If you've been listening into the first segment, Perry was talking about her story a little bit. I guess it was a year ago that the first story broke out where she was being held. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Missy called me up and said, she was talking about her standoff situation about a year ago. She had taken a hostage. She had been off her medication. Basically, involved herself in an armed standoff with LASD deputies who, had spoke with Missy before. We're aware there was a mental health concerns there. But, ultimately Missy was taken into custody over the whole situation, and which she now attributes to, her decision to go off her medication, and wanted to use that, contacted us after the fact to say, I want to use my situation to raise awareness about the importance of following up on medication, following up on treatment, recognizing mental health concerns, which are everywhere in our community. They're all over the place. And so she called us and said, can I talk and can I spread my message? And, immediately we thought it was a fantastic opportunity because this is someone who can really help us understand a little bit more about, some of the struggles that people are facing and how, not only how they can help themselves, but, why they need to go do that. So Missy, can you hear us online?
I can.
Awesome. Just want to check. Thank you again. I want to thank you for being so courageous and brave and coming on here and sharing your story and letting us, kind of talk about your situation a little bit.
Well, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's really a blessing.
And talk to us a little bit about, so kind of people understand some of the struggles that, someone in your situation goes through, on a daily basis. What are you, handling and addressing?
Well, I got to tell you, there's medication, but there's no magic pill. And sometimes it takes a long time to get the right combination. So don't get frustrated because you have to wait at least 6 to 8 weeks for any one pill to work. And they might make you feel funny, they might make you feel uncomfortable, but you just got to stick it out. And at the end of that 8 weeks, if it's going to work, and sometimes things to be added. Basically, you're a guinea pig because nobody knows exactly what's going to work with somebody's chemistry. But I encourage people to hang in there and wait for the miracle to happen because it will happen.
And you were diagnosed at a young age and struggled for a while before you kind of were able to recognize and cope and handle kind of the issues you were struggling with. That was one of the things you were telling me yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. My symptoms started when I was 11 after a trauma.
And then kind of just.
For me, what I want to know, Missy, is when you were diagnosed, did you accept it, or did you embrace it, or did you resist it and not want to accept it for a while? Like, was there a struggle there, or did you just get clear that this is what you had and kind of accept it right away?
I didn't accept it right away because I didn't believe the diagnosis was correct, and I was young when I was diagnosed. I knew I had depression, but I knew there was a whole lot more going on there. And I wasn't completely honest with anybody because I was embarrassed. And, when you're hearing things and seeing things that other people don't hear and see, you don't really want to open that up, especially at a young age when you want to be accepted and that kind of thing. But the truth is you have to be completely honest with your caregiver, your doctor, your support system. You just have to be honest.
Well, Missy, this is Mike Doherty with the Behavioral Health Unit at Henry Mayo, and I first of all, thank you so much for what you're doing. This is going to be so helpful to so many people, and I know that's where your heart is. But let me ask you this, just to be clear out there for people that are listening. You've mentioned depression, but you've also mentioned hearing voices and such. So can you tell people what it is? I mean, are you talking about schizophrenia? What exactly is going on?
My diagnosis is called schizoaffective disorder, which is bipolar, which is a mood disorder, and schizophrenia, which is a thought disorder. And they kind of jumble that together as called schizoaffective. And so I'm lucky enough to have both. But so I deal with a lot on a daily basis. And like I said, there's no magic pill. Excuse me. I still hear things, I still see things. It's just more manageable with therapy, with communication with my psychiatrist, with my support system that I surround myself with people that I can trust to give me reality checks. If I'm curious about something, if I see something that is normally not the right thing to see, like for example, is the sky red right now? I need somebody honest enough to say, no, Missy, it's not. It's blue. So I know that it's just me. And, you get the jerks to try to mess with you and stuff like that. That's why I only surround myself with positive, supportive people.
It sounds like you have a proactive mentality to really set yourself up to win in your life rather than just kind of winging it. It sounds like you've made certain decisions to surround yourself with people that you trust, and you rely on them, and it's almost like they take it as an honor to be able to support you, to help make sense of what's really going on in the world, not just what you're perceiving or making up.
Correct. And I got to tell you, the people that live with people or know people or in supporting people with mental illness, especially one such as mine, but not to minimize any other, they're the real heroes here because it's difficult. We're difficult people. And I know for me, I run on a different frequency. I mean, I'm kind of like a casino. I have no windows. I have no clock. And, what might be when you're sleeping in bed, I might be doing my best work, writing a story or, being on the computer and making, having my correspondence. That's when I work the best. I'm kind of a night owl. And then, if I'm manic, I can be up for days. It doesn't matter. It's just taking care of myself, eating right, exercising, picking up the phone, calling somebody if I'm having a problem, making sure that I have those reality checks. It's so important that people surround themselves and talk about it because they're not alone.
It sounds like a big commitment to me. It sounds like you have to really rigorously be committed to setting yourself up to win 24 hours a day. You probably have to be mindful of, like you said, the people that are there to support you, to be grateful and to be thankful and to always remind them that you're difficult, and it's so deep, it's so intense that in order for you to live a healthy life, you really have to be on it.
I have to be honest. I hid it for so many years, and then I just couldn't hide it anymore. It was just too obvious, and it was hard on my family because my family is not this way. I'm adopted, and I carry the gene I had the pleasure of meeting my birth mother, and she's exactly like me. Only she's not medicated, and she doesn't seek medical attention. And so, but at least there was a reason why, and it made more sense to me. And so I kind of called my parents up after I met her on the phone, and I said, "It's not your fault. Finally, there's a reason. There's a reason why this is happening. It's genetic." So that kind of helped. But yeah, I do. It is a commitment, but it is not who I am. It's what I have. So it's like a cold. It's like diabetes. It's like cancer. You have to take your chemo. You have to take your cold medicine. You have to have your diabetes, your insulin. It's like take your medicine. I'm the poster child when it comes to not taking medicine on August 13th, 2014. That is the end result of not taking your medication.
I believe that. I believe that every human being is powerful and extraordinary and magnificent, and that we just have to kind of deal with our own stuff so that we can remind ourselves how amazing we are. I tell you what, stay tuned for more. You're listening to the special broadcast right here on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.